YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast talking Auburn football. Go ahead and share this video to as many media outlets as possible. Really appreciate all the support, all the love. Want to give a big shout out to the Rapport. They're doing their thing over there with the memberships and the collaborations. Really appreciate their contribution to the Auburn space on social media and YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you feel compelled to do so, $ Kennard Stewart at Cash App. You can go ahead and donate to the channel. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Okay, so a big portion of what Auburn wants to accomplish will rest heavily on the running game. Tank Bigsby, Shaun Shivers, Jarquez Hunter. And the question on the floor is, and now this comes from the Facts or Nah from Rapport. The question on the floor is, will Auburn average 200 yards per game? We're going to let that float out there for a little bit as we talk about some other things. 200 yards per game in a SEC stretch that will start promptly after the Georgia State game. I'm not too sure. 200 yards a game, that's a lot. And if you look at the typical running back in the SEC and other conferences, I mean, they may average, at the high end, maybe about 6 yards per carry, 200 yards. And then you also look at the distribution between, say, Bo Nix, who, he can scamper for about 50 or 60 a game. And, of course, Tank Bigsby, he can get his for about a $150, right? Jarquez Hunter, add in about 60. Yeah, maybe. But my thing is this. A lot of you all would throw out the whole offensive line question. I think the offensive line will be better. I think they will be in better condition. I think, although the previous recruiting classes did not put a lot of emphasis on the offensive line, especially the offensive tackle position, because see, a lot of folks don't realize the offensive tackle position is a different level of skill set, especially the left tackle. Got to be very mobile. Got to be in tune to protecting the backside of the quarterback, right? So I look at other teams, though. Georgia, Alabama. They didn't average 200 yards a game rushing. The real fruit of this is Auburn's ability to throw the ball vertically downfield. I think it's possible. If I was on the Facts in our show, I wouldn't say facts. I would say no. I don't think Auburn, averages 200 yards a game. I think it's possible. But do I even think do you need that? You don't need 200 yards per se from a running back averaging 5 to 6 yards. That's a lot of action. That's a lot of trying to keep up, especially when your opponents, Georgia, Alabama, maybe LSU, they're throwing the ball downfield. Quarterbacks averaging about 9 to 10 yards a pass. So the real question on the floor is, do you even need a running back? Do you even need, yeah, you could stand 200 yards a game for sure. But you got to throw the ball downfield. The real thing on the floor is the idea that Auburn's passing game has to elevate to where the running game is not necessarily a necessity, but it's a complement. Because if you, with where Auburn says they want to go, where Bryan Harsin and his staff says they want Auburn to go as far as being elite in the SEC, in the SEC West, the running game has to be a complement and not a necessity. Of course, you always need it, but I'm saying if you have to heavily rely on the running game, to be ultimately successful in the SEC, you're going to be down in that 7-6, 6-6. You know, you're going to be down in that area. Right? So I want us to shift our mentality when it comes to the Auburn running game. Because really we have been conditioned as Auburn fans that we got to have a Cadillac. We got to have a Ronnie Brown. We got to have a Kenny Irons. You know, we got to have a guy that rushes the ball 40 times. Trey Mason. We got to have a guy that rushes the ball 40 times, 200. But look at all that production, though. 40 touches for 200 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. And then you look at over the years, Auburn has not had a 1,000-yard receiver since the early 2000s. That's where the fruit is, for sure. So, yes, I would love to see Tank Bigsby rush for, 170, 200 yards a game. But if you can't complement that with a strong passing attack, with where we are in college football, you ain't winning no championship. Not at all. Go ahead and hit the Cash App, $ Kennard Stewart, KENNARD STEWART. But yeah, let me know what you think, though, in the comment section. If Auburn, yes, I think it'll be beautiful if Auburn can figure out a way to average 200 yards per game running the football. But the passing game is going to be vital. Bo Nix's ability to take his game to the next level is going to be vital. You can't have a quarterback that averages 6 yards per pass and expect to be elite in Power 5 football. Especially not in the SEC. Not happening. I think he will, the offense will get a little help with a more experienced, a more developed offensive line, which we will go a little bit more into detail about that in another video. But my guys at, the War Rapport really appreciate their contribution to the Auburn space here on YouTube. And, you know, the more I thought about it, it was like a 200-yard run yards per game running. I would love it, but I also would love to see that complemented by a really solid passing attack to where Bo Nix can up his yards per pass to about 8, maybe 9 yards per pass. And that's when you can really start talking success at a high level for the Auburn Tigers. Let me know what you think about this video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.